Welcome back to WeIn Law, your go-to civic education resource hub. Look, if you're interacting with digital assets here in Nigeria, the ground underneath us has totally shifted. So today, we're diving straight into this explainer, covering the July 2026 Nigerian Crypto Tax Guidelines. We are laser-focused on the important rules and, more importantly, the really costly mistakes you absolutely need to avoid to stay compliant.
And to make sure we're getting this 100% right, we aren't relying on social media rumors. We are looking directly at the primary source, the official document from the Nigeria Revenue Service. We're going to unpack this framework step by step so you know exactly what your civic responsibilities actually are.
Okay, here's our quick roadmap for today. First, we'll hit the taxable event matrix. Second, the safe zones or non-taxable events. Third, we break down the 3 P2P categories. And finally, number 4, avoiding those heavy tax penalties. Let's jump in.
Section 1. The Taxable Event Matrix. Entering the Danger Zones.
Okay, so looking right at Section 7.0, the first item gives us a really crucial detail. Simply buying crypto with fiat money, that doesn't trigger an income tax. You're just getting hit with a 1.5% stamp duty that's withheld from the token itself. You're just entering the market here, so, you're mostly safe.
But wow, look at this stark contrast when you reverse that exact action. The literal second you decide to cash out and sell your virtual asset for fiat, which the NRS officially calls a Category 1 disposal, you trigger a massive cascade of taxes. Suddenly, you're looking at income tax on your dollar-referenced gain, a 1% withholding tax on the gross proceeds, plus a stamp duty. It is a completely different ballgame once you decide to cash out.
Now, please, beware of this incredibly costly mistake. A lot of folks assume they only owe the taxman when they convert back to Naira, right? Wrong. Section 7.1 is crystal clear here. Gratuitous receipts. We're talking mining rewards, staking yields, airdrops that have a realizable value. Those are taxed as income the exact second they hit your wallet. And get this, it's calculated based on the Naira conversion rate for that specific day. So the big takeaway, your passive crypto income is actively taxed in real time.
Real quick, before we move out of the danger zones and into the non-taxable safe zones, take a split second to hit subscribe on the WeIn Law channel and ring that notification bell. Navigating your civic duties shouldn't be something you have to do alone, and we're here to make sure you never miss an essential legal update.
All right, Section 2, Safe Zones, Non-Taxable Events.
So, where can we actually breeze easy? Well, the guidelines explicitly state that merely holding a virtual asset is not a taxable event. Watching your portfolio absolutely rocket to the moon, you are not taxed until you actually sell. Minting a brand new NFT, totally safe until that very first sale. Oh, and interestingly enough, using central bank digital currencies like the e-Naira is completely carved out and excluded from the specific virtual asset tax framework altogether.
But listen, don't make a costly mistake here. Transferring assets between different wallets that you personally own and control is perfectly fine, totally safe. But the second you send that asset over to a third-party wallet, like say you're sending crypto to a buddy to pay them back for dinner, the beneficial ownership changes hands. Boom, you have officially left the safe zone. The NRS tracks the true owner, remember, not just the digital address.
I also really want to highlight this specific definition from Section 7.2.3. The guidelines make it super clear that committing your assets into a staking or validation protocol strictly for network operations, what they call a staking lockup, does not count as a taxable disposal. Locking the asset itself is safe. It's the rewards that you generate from that lockup that become taxable, like we talked about a minute ago.
Navigating all these frameworks successfully is totally about empowerment through education. So, empower yourself. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right now so you can catch more essential WeIn Law resource breakdowns just like this one.
Moving on to Section 3, the 3 P2P categories. Section 8.2, Breakdown. Okay, so it turns out the NRS hasn't just painted all peer-to-peer trading with one giant brush. I was actually genuinely surprised by this. They've divided the entire P2P ecosystem into 3 very distinct regulatory buckets, categories A, B, and C. And this is based entirely on who is holding your funds and the level of supervision over the trade. Let's look at Category A first. If your go-to P2P platform uses an escrow system to hold your Bitcoin or USDT during a trade, that is firmly a Category A platform. And what this means for you is actually kind of convenient. The platform itself carries the full legal obligation to automatically deduct and remit your withholding taxes and stamp duties. Basically, they do the heavy lifting for tax collection right there at the source.
Now here is a major pitfall you need to take seriously. A lot of traders assume that if a platform just introduces buyers and sellers without holding the asset in escrow, so a Category B platform, that they're somehow magically off the regulatory hook. Absolutely not true. The guidelines explicitly state that if a platform systematically facilitates transactions, they still bear incredibly stringent registration and reporting obligations to the NIRS as a virtual asset service provider. Basically, your transactions are still leaving a systematic paper trail.
And finally, we have Category C. This is true decentralization, folks. We're talking about meeting up for in-person swaps, organizing trades in a private WhatsApp group, or doing direct bare metal wallet-to-wallet transfers with zero intermediary platforms involved. But remember, with great decentralization comes great responsibility. In Category C, the burden of tax reporting and collection shifts entirely onto your shoulders through your annual self-assessment returns.
And finally, Section 4. Avoiding tax penalties. Look, by understanding exactly where the lines are drawn between those taxable matrices, the non-taxable safe zones, and these three distinct P2P categories, you can confidently protect yourself. So I'm going to leave you to evaluate your own digital footprint with this final thought. Are your preferred crypto trades truly Category C off-platform where you handle your own reporting? Or are you utilizing a Category B facilitation service without even realizing the massive reporting footprint you're leaving behind for NERs? Take a really hard look at how you trade, understand your obligations, and stay compliant out there. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.